The battle lines have been drawn.
It's hard to get a permit. You know, there's too much you have to do.
And they've been partners with them. They've been kissing them on the lips for a number of years.
At least in my humble opinion, we need to start regulating the regulators.
Oil and gas is the single biggest private industry in New Mexico. Its taxes, royalties, and other expenses account for about 1/3 of the entire state budget. And when your state is $454 million in debt, pumping up those oil and gas revenues is very important. But at what environmental cost? That's the root of the battle. Oil and gas producers say state agencies like the Oil Conservation Division have gone overboard, leaving New Mexico at a competitive disadvantage to neighboring states.
For decades, under both Republican and Democrat governors, they were useful and helped the industry, as opposed to opposing the industry. And now they oppose the industry straight out, so it's almost as if their goal is to destroy the industry. The problem is so much of our state revenue comes from that industry. If we destroy that, which we are working on and have, we've damaged it anyway, now we've got a budget shortfall.
Conservationists reject that line of thinking. Max Call was a prominent legislator in Santa Fe, and despite being in the oil and gas business his entire life, he's been a persistent critic of the industry.
You know, the little tiny regulations that they're trying to fight here are not hurting them, not really.
Nothing riles oil and gas people more than the so-called pit rule. The dirt, water, and grime a well digs up go into something like this, a pit. 2 years ago, state regulators, citing the danger of contamination to groundwater, placed stricter rules on how pits should be managed, requiring companies to often truck the waste to deposit sites scattered across the state. Producers say the regulations are applied inconsistently.
Even though Colorado supposedly has stricter rules than the state of New Mexico, he said when you move forward for a drilling permit in the state of Colorado, they say do X, Y, and Z. And you do X, Y, and Z, and you get your drilling permit. In the state of New Mexico, you have X, Y, and Z that you have to follow. But all of a sudden, when you apply for your drilling permit, maybe X is asked to be a Y, maybe Z is asked to be a B, and now you've got a C thrown in there for the front of it. So you can't just, you don't just have rules that you follow. You have rules, you have a moving target.
I think it should be more stringent. And it doesn't add a whole bunch to the cost of the well. It adds a little. But some of the wells are hundreds of thousands or several $1 million, and that's just a little fraction of the cost.
But even one of the most prominent Democrats in the state is willing to relax the pit rule as currently written.
I am going to make every effort to give a tax credit to those people that are be drilling, and hopefully pick up half of the cost of what it is to operate that pit rule, and then the industry can pick up the balance of that. So I think that in itself hopefully will then inspire those oil and gas people to come into New Mexico and drill more.
I'm outside the little town of Aztec, New Mexico, up in the northwest corner of the state. And this is the San Juan Basin, the richest area in the entire United States for natural gas. There are more than 20,000 wells in this basin in operation, but in the past year, activity has slowed. Is that because of too many regulations and the pit rule? Or is it simply a matter of economics? Few businesses are as price sensitive as oil and gas. It's estimated that a $1 rise in the price of crude equals an extra $1 million to the state general fund. And just a 10-cent bump in natural gas prices equals an extra $1 million to New Mexico. With oil and natural gas prices down, the state has received less in severance taxes from the industry, $625.9 million in 2008, down to $440 million in 2009, to $357 million in the fiscal year just passed. Producers point to these numbers and say they need help. But environmentalists say the numbers will bounce back up once the price of oil and gas rebound, quoting one company that plans on drilling 100 new wells in New Mexico this year. Where does the truth lie in between these things?
The truth lies between the two of them.
John Arthur Smith is trying to act as referee. As a fiscal hawk, the longtime legislator wants to make sure the industry doesn't wreck the environment, but also understands the financial importance of oil and gas to the state treasury.
My goal is to satisfy and take care of the needs of the state of New Mexico as best possible, but have a very, very broad revenue stream that everybody can live with.
Still, the debate rages. What would you say to those people that are saying, well, all we're doing is we're asking the oil and gas industry to clean up whatever mess they make that comes from getting a resource out of the ground?
I think that we've always done that. You know, and we've been doing it for 80 years within New Mexico. We're cleaning up our messes.
The budget's $454 million in the hole. Is it logical to say, well, maybe we should try to encourage more and more revenue from the oil and natural gas industry until we get that budget balanced?
You know, there's a bunch of things that we need to do, but the oil and gas industry isn't going to produce a hell of a lot more in severance taxes and royalties, taking off these little tiny factors like open pits and things like that.
Certainly after the BP issue in the Gulf, there's no guarantees in industry from that standpoint. But I do know that without oil and gas, New Mexico does not have the windfalls to take care of the needs of all the state citizens of the state.
Rob Nikolewski, CapitalReportNewMexico.com.